How's it going, everybody? Jared here, and today we're going to be working on how to use Firebase to load something into your database and also take it out of your database and load it into a table view. Also, if you're wondering how to use Firebase to create your own messaging application, my course is uploading as we speak, so check the description for the availability of it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead, open up Safari or your web browser of choice, and we're just going to go ahead and head over to firebase.google.com. And inside of here, you can go ahead and say get started for free and either sign up for your account or it takes you right over to your console. Now, once you're inside of here, let's go ahead, create a new project. And this project, you can go ahead and call this whatever you want, but I'm going to go ahead and call this my Firebase database. I mean, that's just what we're going to be working with. So go ahead, create that project. And here you have it. So now we have Firebase database. And here you have it. So now you are logged inside of here. We have this overview right here. And this is your database right over here in the left corner. And what we're going to be working with is uploading something into this database, and then we're also going to learn how to pull things from that database and put it into a table view. So the way we do this is we're going to go ahead, open up an Xcode, create a new Xcode project, and then this will be a single view application. Go ahead, hit next. Product name, you can go ahead and call this whatever you want, but I'm going to call this my Firebase database just to keep things similar. And then for your organization name, Archetab organization identifier, you want to make sure you have com dot and then your organization name. Language, Swift, devices universal. Go ahead, hit next, create. And here we have our project right over here. Now let's go ahead and let's finish up with firebase.google.com. So inside of here, we're going to go ahead, click the home button. We're going to say add Firebase to your iOS application. For your iOS bundle ID, head over here to your project. And as you can remember, it's com.archetab. And then this will be your product name. So go ahead, copy all of that. So that's your bundle identifier. Copy that, and then we can go over here to your iOS bundle ID, paste that in there. And that's all you need on this page. So go ahead, say add app. And then now it's going to take you over here where it's going to download this Google service-info.plist file. And this is very important to your application. So go ahead, take this Google service-info.plist, and we're going to go ahead, click and drag that over to our Firebase database project, just in the hierarchy right over here. We're going to say copy items if needed, and add the targets. You want to make sure that this one is selected. Now go ahead, hit finish. And if you have downloaded Google service-info.plist multiple times, you're going to have this -16. Go ahead and delete that, because if you have that number, it's going to create some errors later on. So just go ahead and make sure you have that. Now let's continue on, and let's say continue. And now let's go ahead and install some pod files. Now the next thing it wants you to do is install some pod files. Now, as you can remember, Google Services uses CocoaPods. So if you go ahead over here to cocoapods.org, or you click on this link right here, essentially you can read up on what CocoaPods is. CocoaPods is a dependency manager for Swift and Objective-C Cocoa projects. Essentially, it's a way to install frameworks inside of your application really easily. And now let's go ahead, and if you haven't already, go ahead, open up Terminal, and let's install CocoaPods. So the way you do this is by going ahead and taking that sudo gem install CocoaPods, copy that, and just paste that in there like so. Hit enter to run it. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to worry about installing CocoaPods. So let's continue on with the rest of our project by doing the rest of this stuff. So we're going to go ahead, create a prod file for our project. Now the way we do this is we're going to go ahead and say ls to see where we are. Then we're going to say cd desktop, or wherever your file is stored. ls cd, and then this is going to be my Firebase database. So that's just the name of my folder right there. Go ahead, hit enter, and then it's going to bring you into there. And you want to make sure you're in the same exact spot that you have the Firebase database.xcode project. You want to make sure that you have your Xcode project in the same folder. And then now you can go ahead and say pod init. And then that's going to add a pod file inside of your Firebase database folder. So if we go ahead, open up this, you'll see that a pod file was just added to our project. So now we can go ahead and take this pod file, and with this pod file, we're going to go ahead and add Firebase. So right now, let's go ahead and minimize this real quick, and let's go ahead and add Firebase into our Firebase database project. So with this one right here, we're going to say target Firebase test. We're going to go ahead and erase everything that has to do with tests, since we're just going to be targeting our main Xcode project. So let's go ahead, go right in here. We're going to hit tab, and we're going to say pod open quote apostrophe, what? Open close apostrophe like so. And inside of here, you're just going to put in capital F Firebase. And then also, because we are working with our database, we want to go ahead, hit enter, and say pod. And then this will be our Firebase / and then this will be our database. So we are installing specifically a framework that's going to allow us to use our Firebase database. Now let's go ahead and we should be good to go. So go ahead, hit Command S to save that pod file, close that up, head over here to terminal again, and we can go ahead and say pod install. And that's going to install all the frameworks that are necessary for us to use Firebase. So it's going to take a minute or two for this thing to load, so I'll meet you right back here. And there you have it. As you can see, everything has installed properly, and we are able to, as you can see, it says please close any current Xcode session. So go ahead, if you have anything open, go ahead and close out of it. And then now let's go ahead and go over here to our folder, and now we can go ahead and click on our Firebase database.xc workspace. This is what we are going to be working with instead of an Xcode project in and of itself. And we're just going to go ahead and pop into our appdelegate.swift, and inside of here we're going to say import our Firebase. And now we should be good to go with this application did finish launching with options. We're going to go ahead and say capital FIR app dot, and this will be configure. So we are configuring our Firebase application, and that's where also this Google service-info.plist comes in. We're configuring our whole application with the plist, and there you have it. Now we have Firebase completely set up inside of our application, and now let's go ahead and start working with that database. So the way we do this is we're going to go over here to our viewcontroller.swift, and what I want to do is as soon as the view loads, I'm going to post something. So let's go ahead and create a new function called post, open close parentheses, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And of course, this is where we're going to be posting something. Now also with my view controller, I'm going to be working with a table view in this case, and we're going to be loading everything that's coming from our database into that table view. So the way we do this is by going over here to our main.storyboard. Let's go ahead, delete that view controller that's on our scene, and add a table view controller. Now with this table view controller, we'll work on this in just a minute, but let's go over here to our viewcontroller.swift, and with our class right here, you can go ahead and just change this to your table view controller. That's the name of it. And then we have the super class, and we're going to change this to a UI table view controller. And there you have it. Now with this func post right here, what are we wanting to post? Well, this is all up to you, but in this case, we're just going to make it so there's static things that are just being posted onto the internet. So we're going to go ahead and say let our title, and we're going to set this equal to open close quote, and you can just go ahead and put in, I'm just going to put in my just that. That's what we are going to be posting up there. It's going to be a title. And then if you want to have multiple things posted up there, which I'm going to be doing in this instance, we're going to say let our message equal, and we'll set this equal to, and this will be our message, like so. So this is what we're going to be posting. We have our title and our message, and this is what's going to go into our database. Now, how do we upload these to our database? Well, to do this, we need to go ahead and create an NS dictionary. So we're going to go ahead and say let our post, and then colon, and then after this, we're going to say open bracket, close bracket, and inside of here, basically what we're trying to do here is we have a key for the value that we are uploading. So this will be a string. This is what we're going to be using as a key. And then after this, whether you're uploading an integer or a variable or a URL, whatever you're posting onto the internet, normally it's just a string. So you can go ahead and put string if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and put any object. And there you have it. Now we can go ahead and set this equal to, and then we'll set this equal to open bracket, close bracket. And inside of here, it's going to be expecting a string and an any object. So with this first one right here, we're going to say open close quote, and this will be, of course, the key for the thing you're trying to access. And then after this, we can go ahead, hit colon, and then this is what do you want to put inside of that key that you're trying to post. Well, I'm going to post this variable right here. That's my let title equal title. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. And of course, that is referencing this right up here. Now we can go ahead right after this, hit comma, enter, and then after that say colon, and then this will be a message as well. And then after this, this is our post that we're going to be putting up to our database. So in order to post this onto our database, let's go ahead and import Firebase. So we're going to say import our Firebase, and then also we're going to say import our Firebase database right there. And now we can go ahead, hit Command S to save that so we can access all of the framework stuff. And right after this post right here, we're going to go ahead and say let our database reference, so we're referencing a specific database, and we're going to set this equal to our capital FIR database dot, and then this will be database dot reference. So again, we're referencing a specific database. And then inside of this database reference right here, we want to access a specific part of our project. Now with this database reference right here, we want to access a specific part of our project. Now the way we do this is by going ahead and saying database ref.child, and this child right here is going to be whatever you want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and put this as posts. So this is where all of my posts are going to be stored. And then after this, we want to have, because we are posting things, we want it to be able to have multiple posts inside of our posts database reference. So we can go ahead and say child by auto ID. So essentially we're just creating a random identification number, and this is actually going to allow us to easily put this inside of our table view later on. And then we're going to say set value. So we are setting the value inside of this post child ID, so we're creating a random child ID. This will all really make sense once we actually see the database itself. And then we're going to set a value inside of this auto ID right here too, and this will be our post. So we're just putting our post right in there. And now let's go ahead and right over here inside of our view did load, let's just go ahead and say post. And then let's head over here to our main.storyboard, and inside of our table view right here, we're just going to go ahead and hook this up to our viewcontroller.swift file. So this is our table view controller. And also with our table view right here, we need to head over here to the attributes inspector, and we want to say is initial view controller. And now if we were to build and run this, it's going to run our post as soon as the view loads, and it's going to put it up to the Firebase database. So let's go ahead and check this out. Now right now, as you can see, it says the Firebase set value or remove value at post / whatever that is. It says that the permission was denied. Now the way we fix this is by going over here to our Firebase console. We're going to click on our database, go to data, and actually rules right here. So you can see that we have rules, read, and write. So with right here, we're going to go ahead and say this is equal to true. You can read. And then also with this other one right here, we want to be able to write. So we're going to set that equal to true as well. And then we can go ahead, hit publish. And now we should be able to, if we were to build and run this application again, it should be able to write onto our Firebase database. And there you have it. So now you can see that it just posted inside of that post. So again, that's the .child post. That's one we created right here. And then it's going to be child by auto ID. So it just creates an auto ID that it stores our message and our title, as you can see. And that's great. And now let's go ahead and load this onto our table view here. As you can see, that's quite empty right now. So we're going to go over here to our main.storyboard, click on our table view. So I'm going to go ahead, click and drag two labels onto there, like so. Then we're also going to take this label and just move it across the screen like so. Then we're going to add a top space to container margin. That way we can actually have this fit the screen properly. And then we want leading space and also trailing space. We're going to go ahead and add this just beneath that, and this will be our message, but we can go ahead and right click or control click and drag from that. We're going to have vertical spacing from that to this label, and then we want some leading space, and then we also want some trailing space. And now we can go ahead and we are all set up with our labels. So now we can go ahead with these labels and let's add some tags onto them. So we're going to go over here to our attribute inspector. We're going to add a tag of 1, and then with this other label right here, we're going to add a tag of 2. And we're just going to be able to reference these later on inside of programming with those tags that we just added. And now let's go ahead, open up our assistant editor, and let's start programming these table cells. So the way we do this is, first off, I'm just going to go ahead and say table view, and this will be number of rows in section. How many things do we want inside of this table view? We'll figure this out later, but let's go ahead and say table view, and this will be the cell for row at index path. So to go ahead, click on that, and fill that in. And then again, we'll be filling in all these cells in just a minute, but let's go ahead and grab the stuff from our database and load it inside of our posts. Now, the way we get our post is, first off, we want a structure. So I'm going to go up here right above our class right here, and we're going to say struct. Go ahead, tab all that in. For the name of this, we're going to go ahead and put this as a post. So this is exactly what a post is. So inside of our post right here, we have, of course, our title and our message. So we're going to go ahead and say let our title equal, and this will be a string, exclamation point. And then after this, we can go ahead and say let our message equal, and this will be a string, exclamation point as well. And actually these equal signs should be colon signs just so we can have that properly formatted. So we have let title colon string and let message colon string. And that's just how we're going to have our post. So now let's go ahead and say let our posts, this is multiple posts of course, so we're going to say let our posts equal, and this will be an array of open bracket, close bracket. And inside of these square brackets right here, this will be, of course, an array of our post that we just created right up here. And now we should be good to go. Now let's go ahead, go down here to our table view, number of rows in section, and we're just going to go ahead and return the value of our posts.count. So we're counting how many things are inside of this array right there. And then now inside of our view.load, let's go ahead and grab the data from our database and load it into our posts. So we're going to go ahead and say let our database reference equal, and of course we're going to set this equal to, again, this is our capital FIR database.database.reference, and then after this we're going to go ahead and grab those objects from our database reference. So I'm going to say our database reference dot child open parentheses, so you want to make sure you have open close quote like so, and then capital P posts, that's the child that we are going down here. And then in order to grab each of these objects, since we don't have a specific ID that we're going to be grabbing, we need to go ahead and say dot query ordered by key. So we're going to be ordering our query, or basically our whole database, by the key, and we're loading that into our project. Then we can go ahead and say dot observe event type, and then with these event type right here, we can go ahead and say dot, and then this will be our child added. So every time a child is added into our database reference, whether that be someone else adding it or us, then it's going to load that into our project properly. Now with block right here, we're going to go ahead and say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then inside of this, it's expecting one variable, one very important variable, and this is called the snapshot. So this is essentially the stuff that's coming from this database reference. So that's it. So you say snapshot in, and then now we can go ahead and say let a title equal, and this will be equal to our snapshot.value, exclamation point, and then open bracket, close bracket, and then we want to grab it by the key. So the key for our title is, of course, title, as we set right down here. And then for our message, we're going to go ahead and say let our message equal, and this will be equal to our snapshot.value, exclamation point, and then of course open bracket, close bracket, and then this will be equal to our message that we just, again, created right down here. So we're taking that snapshot and we're grabbing specific values out of that. And now we can go ahead and add this into our posts. So we can go ahead and say posts dot, and I'm just going to go ahead and say insert. We're not going to use a pen because I want it to be at a specific place inside of the post. So post.insert. All right, and I just realized that we gave this structure right up here, the struct post, an absolutely horrible name because we also have a function called post. So avoid that. Don't have multiple names that are the exact same name. That was my bad. And so now let's go ahead, and with the structure right here, we're going to say our struct post, and we shall set this name equal to our post structure. And now down here inside of our self.post.insert, we're going to be inserting our post structure, open parentheses, and then in here it's going to be expecting a title, so go ahead, insert that title, and for some reason it didn't give me my message, but we can go ahead and manually type that in by saying comma, then this will be our message, and then colon, and then close off those parentheses like so. Now for this title that we are adding, of course this is going to be this title, so we're going to go ahead and put that in there like so. And then now with our message that we're adding, of course this is going to be our message that we just created right there. So just go ahead and add that in there as well. And then at index, we want this to be added at the beginning of our array, so I'm going to go ahead and put this at 0. And right now it says that it cannot convert value of type any object to expected argument of type string. So just go up here, we're going to say let title equal snapshot.value title, and then this will be as a string. And then we also need to do this with our message, so just go ahead, copy, and paste that right in there. And now we have it, so we're inserting this post into our posts. And one last thing, we need to go up here to our var posts equal, and of course this will be an array of our post structures now. Then open close parentheses like so. And now we are all good to go with that. If that got a little bit confusing, just take a glance at the code and make sure you have everything properly set up. And now we have everything working, no more errors going on. So now we can go ahead and say self.tableview.reload data. So we're going to be reloading the data that's inside of these posts right here. Now down here instead of our self row at index path, we need to go ahead and load our post into that. So let's go ahead and go down here to our table view, self row at index path, and let's go ahead and load that onto these labels that we have right here. So we're going to go ahead and say var cell will be equal to, and this will be equal to our table view dot dequeue reusable cell with identifier, and the identifier of this is of course going to be equal to capital CELL. And now since we set up that identifier, let's head over here to our cell, click on our cell, head over here to the attributes inspector, and we're going to set the identifier of this equal to capital CELL, so cell. Make sure it's the same exact thing that you have right down here inside of here. And now we're good to go. Now we can go ahead and say return cell, exclamation point to unwrap that cell properly. And now let's go ahead and reference the things that are inside of that cell. So we're going to go ahead and say let our label 1, which will be our top label, will be equal to, and we'll set this equal to our cell.viewWithTag, and the tag was 1. And then this is going to be as a UI label. And then now we can go ahead and do this with our label 2. So we're going to say let our label 2 equal cell.viewWithTag, and this will be 2 as a UI label as well. And there you have it. Now let's go ahead and add some text onto this. So we're going to go ahead and say label1.text will be equal to, and we're going to set this equal to our posts, open bracket, close bracket. So we're going to be referencing a specific part of those posts, and this will be for the index path.row. So this is going to be depending on which row it's on that the labels will show up. And then now we can go ahead and say dot, and then we're going to add our title in this one. And then now with our label 2, we're going to say label 2.text will be equal to, and we're going to set this equal to our posts, open bracket, close bracket. This will be an index path.row, again, dot, and then this time it will be our message. And now we have everything set up. So now we are able to post something to our database and load it into that table view. So let's go ahead and let's build and run this and see how everything is. And there you have it. So now we have our title and message that are loading up inside of those labels. And now if we were to go ahead, build and run this again, so now we post something into our database, and let's go ahead and see if all of those load. So we have 1, 2, 3 loading inside of our database right over here as well. And there you have it. So that's how you post something up to your database, and that is also how you grab it from the database and put it inside of a table view. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you want to support me even further and also learn how to make an awesome chat app, you can go ahead and check the description down below for the availability of that course. Anyway, I will see you in the next one. Bye.